Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss The Crow, Salvation, starring Kirsten Dunst, Eric Mebius, William Atherton, Debbie Fan, Grant Schaud, and David Jean Thomas, directed by Bharat Nalluri. Now, I have seen this once. The next one's going to be where I'm mostly unfamiliar with, but I've only seen it twice for this show as well as the one time beforehand. So let's see how this goes and see if it's any better than the second film. After the opening credits of seeing a crow bleed, we open with the death of Alex Corvus, played by Eric Mebius, on his 21st birthday because of the murder of Lauren Randall, as her father Nathan, played by William Atherton, and her sister Erin, played by Kirsten Dunst, is there to see it. And remind me, why is Kirsten Dunst top billed in this movie? As this isn't about her. It's more about who becomes the Crow, which happens to be Eric Mebius, who hasn't been in much I've seen, but I've reviewed him a couple of times in a couple of Resident Evil films. And he was in a movie I haven't seen called Cruel Intentions, but come on, he's carrying the movie over more than Kirsten Dunst. As I've realized after Spider-Man and earlier this year Civil War, she's not a great actress in my opinion, as I'm not the biggest fan of hers. And the truth is, she's terrible in this movie, as is everybody else. And I don't like any of these fucking characters, as this feels like a video sequel, whereas last time it came out in theaters on Labor Day weekend. But like this film, is a very bad movie in my opinion. A crow wakes up Alex, which absolutely looked cheap, as does this movie, while he punches the glass, and a security guard doesn't know he's moving until the alarm sounds, which makes me think, how fucking stupid is this movie? And I'm 15 minutes into it, while Alex runs up the stairs and gets out of captivity and heals himself, while security guards shoot at his dumbass. And I guess he flies like a crow out to his home. And I didn't know what the fuck was going on in that scene. And the effects looked absolutely horrible, while Alex stabs his hand on the nail and heals his quicker like a crow, and looks at a file of someone named Keith who killed Lauren, and we get flashbacks of Keith saying Alex killed Lauren with a knife, and Alex says it's a lie. And is any of this making sense? Hell to the motherfucking no. Alex goes to the cemetery where Lauren is buried and remembers when she was alive and says to himself he can't be alive. And we see a flashback of their love, which means nothing to me at all, as we see the stone tear up some blood while Erin happens to be there visiting her dead sister, as he says he knows everything about her until Erin shouts for her dad, who happens to be Nathan. And William Atherton is better in roles like the first Ghostbusters and the first Die Hard, which I'll eventually get to, is very bad in this movie, in my opinion, while Alex visits Thomas Leonard and throws him around and asks him who the man with the scar is. And Tommy says there is no scar. Well, that's bullshit, honestly, because he saw one of the beginning of the movie and asks him to write their names down, as he already has their names. And a police officer, Philip Dutton, harasses a couple of girls by bringing her out of the car and searches her while acting like a creep. And the other one is knocked out until Alex comes in and beats up on Philip and tells the girls to go ahead and drive carefully and to call the emergency line to report an officer down, as Alex asks Philip for the scar and eventually kills him off. And the acting in this whole movie, as well as the scene, was fucking painful just to listen to. And the cinematography looks absolutely ugly, as this is an ugly looking movie in my opinion. Tommy comes into a club and approaches Peter Walsh, Stan Roberts, played by an early Walton Goggins, and Martin Toomey are working together as corrupt cops, while Erin calls Nathan in to see on the TV Philip is dead, as Nathan is also a cop, while the Crow watches Tommy beating up on Vincent Elric. And do I care about any of this shit? Fuck no. Because it's awful and the effects look horrendous at the end of the day. Vincent is approached by Alex, and we see him heal himself as he asks Vincent for his life back. And the audience knows that's not going to happen. And do I give a fuck? No. And the soundtrack is bland for this movie. And this is the first time I found a soundtrack to a Crow movie bland, as the other two were fine, but not here. while Alex burns Vincent's car with some bad-looking 3D effects. Despite this, came out in the year 2000. As Alex approaches Aaron and tells him about what happened to Lauren, as she found out something she shouldn't have, which is her father and his partners are crooked cops, and he gives her the proof of it as well as an address. And this movie looks so bad. Aaron visits Nathan in his office to ask about the death of Lauren, and the conversation doesn't go well while Stan visits Tommy while he has a baby in the room and tells him to turn the baby down. And there's no way to turn the baby down. I mean, come on. He tells them it's Alex and shoots the mother dead, and that is very disrespectful to society in general, while Vincent is once again approached by Alex to learn his innocence and is wrongly accused of the crime that was committed to him. And Alex gets Aaron to the crime scene where Lauren was killed, and she believes it's her fault when Alex says it wasn't her to begin with, as there were 4 of them. As we learn, they were raping her until she grabs a gun and shoots them in the flashback, as Alex tells her how she got killed at this point. And I'm checking out of this movie. I mean, Jesus, it's so bad. Alex and Aaron are chatting about what's going to happen to her father and the other crap cops, and Alex plans on killing every single last one of them after talking about Lauren, and she takes off her necklace, and Alex puts it back on, and at this point, I'm checked out of this movie, as this is so far the worst of the series. And again, I say so far. I haven't gotten to the next 2 movies as well as the remake. The next movie as well as the remake. I just don't care who is who anymore at this point. I want to turn this fucking movie off at this point because it makes no sense whatsoever. While Nathan and Vincent talk about how Aaron knows about her father had something to do with Lauren's murder, as Aaron gets home and washes her face and sees the dead body of Nathan as he was killed by his own men, while Alex visits Vincent, about his next suspects, and Aaron comes in by to tell him they killed his father, and he goes after the motherfuckers in the club and beats up on a couple of guys and lets a stripper go, which seems horrendous. The police chief shows Aaron the letter from her father and shows her he's mixed with some bad news and shoots Vincent dead. And do I care about any of this? No. While we get a flashback of Lauren seeing the death of the corrupt and the corrupt cops getting her killed, while those same assholes are approached by Alex as he kills one of them, and he runs into a bunch of cops and shoot at Alex the same way that Brandon Lee was shot in the first movie. But the only difference is he gets back up and fights more cops, and they get blown up with Alex as he finds the scar. And I'm thinking, this is supposed to be the fucking climax, because I've got 22 more minutes of movie left, as he's led to believe he sees a woman who looked like Lauren, but he gets punched out and sees Aaron has been captured. And I swear to God, I want to turn this fucking movie off because it's so bad. Alex goes after the police chief to save Aaron's life, and he knows he was involved in Lauren's death, and he asks the chief where Aaron is at, and Alex gets captured by the chief, as the chief said they had a fight of some kind, and the chief stabs Alex, and he's bleeding, and that is what Alex is wrongly accused of, as I can't make any sense of this godforsaken plot, as Alex is briefly killed, and they're saying one thing and next thing another, as it makes no goddamn sense. While the chief's secretary has Aaron hostage with her mouth sewed shut, and they dig through Alex's body while Aaron escapes captivity, and Alex wakes up as the secretary says kill the bird, and it's wounded but not dead. But it does get back up, and Alex asks the secretary where did they go, and kills her, the secretary, as Aaron runs away and releases her mouth to move again, and she hides from the chief, and he catches up and takes the gun out of his hands and shoots him once and puts her in a car, while Alex shows up by flying to the car, which looked so bad, and takes the chief to get electrocuted like Alex did in the beginning of the movie. And Aaron is involved as well, and they kill off the chief by electrocuting his dumbass as he burns to death, and Alex disappears on Aaron as she visits his grave. And the climax made me think, I'm done with this series. and I can't believe I have 2 more to go, and I'm scared for the future. I'll tell you why my rating. I'll give this movie a 1.9 out of 10. This movie is very bad, as everybody is terrible in this film, even the top billed person, who happens to be Kirsten Dunst. And why the fuck is she top billed in this movie, as it should be Eric Mebius in this movie? Looked absolutely cheap, because this is a fucking straight to video sequel, and it makes no goddamn sense whatsoever. The acting in this whole movie is painful to listen to, as the way it's shot, as the cinematography looks ugly, as this is an ugly looking movie, and as I don't care for who does what, as this movie is awful, and the effects look horrendous. And at the end of the day, the soundtrack was fine in the first 2 movies, but this soundtrack was bland. There were bad looking 3D effects, despite this came out in the year 2000, and this movie looks bad all around, as this is a strong non-recommendation for this movie. And we'll see how much worse the next 2 movies get, as the new movie tested so badly, and the next one might be a rough watch for Edward Furlong reasons after Terminator 2. And I forget if he's bad in that movie, and I'll find out next time. I've only seen clips. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next time I will be back with the Crow Wicked Prayer. And until then, fly, Crow, fly.